Oh man, it's been a while. Yeah, that's my bad. Mr. Dressel has been very patient. I got the connection a week before I flew out to Cleveland for Worlds, and I'm just getting this recorded and probably uploaded the week of Thanksgiving. So thank you, Mr. Dressel, for being so patient. Anyways, Dressel has done the thing yet again. Yeah, we're gonna skip the theatrics. Dressel sent me the connection. He sent it to me for review. No, he did not pay me to say it was good. All thoughts are my own. Anyways, so we got the connection. I've been waiting a very long time for this yo-yo. For a while, I was worried it got completely canceled because when I got the original emotion, y'all remember, I wanted a bimetal version. And here we are. We got a tri-material with midship rings. This sort of build is gaining some traction. There aren't tons of yo-yo companies doing this right now, but off the top of the head, we're getting more than a couple of yo-yos built this way. What with the plastic rings, the steel outer bits, the aluminum body. This sort of design is being explored by at least a few companies right now. To be honest, this design reminds me a lot of some yo-yo recreation yo-yos, but with the dome hub and the general vibe, I just get reminded of yo-yo recreation. Obviously, the shape got that emotion shape, but the design of the connection is a good design. I don't know, I don't have much to say. It's the shape of the emotion, which is a good shape. Also, it's a bimetal emotion with polycarbonate rings, so about polycarbonate rings. There's an admittedly fair stigma that plastic rings on a design make it prone to being a fragile design, but my connection has been mostly fine even after vibe checking it on hardwood floor. Mind you, it wasn't a full force pile drive, but it didn't become pulse vibey or anything after smacking the hardwood. Worst it got was this little visual thing that might be an internal crack, but it doesn't go anywhere in the rim. So hey, it's at least not gonna get rim shifted from a simple bind. Other than that, I can't really speak for its durability. Most of the yo-yos I own don't survive if they hit the ground in general, and I just don't hit the ground that often. I also don't have much else to say, so we'll just jump into how the connection plays. So, real quick, let's talk about the maneuverability and sluggishness. It's all over the product pages that it was a big deal to Dressel that the connection wasn't sluggish, like redesigning the yo-yo to make it less sluggish type deal. So, how is the pacing? I'd say it's highly refined. It's a sort of controlled pacing. And this controlled pacing comes from the forward mass of the connection. It's not that it's sluggish, but the connection has a forward presence on the string that sort of makes it so rapidly accelerating with the connection results in a smooth acceleration. But it's not sluggish. It doesn't lag behind your movements like other yo-yos I've played with. And I know I say this a lot, but it doesn't necessarily have a quick pace either. But yo-yos that naturally move crazy fast just aren't that popular these days. Here's some insights for those of you that don't stay on top of the competitive scene right now. The popular style of bimetals being released right now, like the Klondike, Kaguro, and Wild, lean more towards a heavier, more powerful playstyle, as opposed to stuff like the Dropnir from a decade ago. Yo-yos like this, the Atomic Crash, they just aren't as popular these days. For sure, you get some releases like the Tachyon or Adrenaline, which may emphasize speed more, but those types of yo-yos just aren't really in vogue right now. Welcome to 2024. Back to the connection. I'd say the product description was correct in saying it wasn't sluggish while maintaining its power. The connection is a powerful yo-yo, through and through. The power, in tandem with the very forward presence the mass has, makes the connection feel incredibly solid and powerful. This, as well as the really controlled pacing, puts this yo-yo in a place where it's great for most things. This controlled pacing, as well as the solid presence, makes the yo-yo good for zoning. It puts it in a spot where you can pinpoint where the yo-yo is very easily in the space around you. The power makes it capable of handling the zoning as well. But the connection is particularly strong for tech. It's just got the sort of build and playstyle that lends it to be very, very good for tech, assuming you prefer your tech combos to be a bit more solid and powerful feeling. But because it has a very controlled playstyle and forward presence, as well as having power to spare, it's just an incredibly good yo-yo for tech tricks. But when hitting things with a bit more jank and just sort of hitting your tricks quickly, it can be a bit fatiguing because of how powerful and solid it feels. That solid presence comes through when you're moving the yo-yo around quickly and can definitely put more physical strain on the yo-yoer. This fatiguing nature can make it so Zontals are particularly exhausting to hit on the connection. It's not by any means bad for Zontals, it's actually really good. The connection's shape and power makes it extremely good for Zontals, but the weight in tandem with its naturally more controlled pacing can make it a bit exhausting to really hit big Zontal tricks with, because you have to maintain a certain speed for Zontal tricks. In general, the connection is a very controlled, powerful, and solid feeling yo-yo. It definitely avoids being particularly sluggish and is handily capable, with the caveat that it's a bit fatiguing to play with, especially if you start hitting faster speeds for your combos. It's good, and I'm going to be comparing it to some other yo-yos. The Emotion. This is the monometal version of the connection. There are different yo-yos, yes, but I feel it's important to lay out the differences in how they play. The Klondike. Probably one of the most popular bimetals in the market right now. And then I'll go with the Hydrogen Crash, just for some juxtaposition. I'll start the comparison with the Klondike. Between the Klondike and the connection feels a bit more solid and heavy. They've got similar levels of power, but the connection has a bit more forward presence on the string. Other than that though, they're pretty similar across the board in how I'd rate them for things like Zontals, speed, stability, and zoning. Another thing as well, the connection is slightly more pleasant for hitting rail combos with. The rim-weighted sluggishness on the connection isn't as forward as the Klondike. Other than that though, they're pretty similar across the board in how I'd rate them for things like Zontals, speed, stability, and zoning. They're both just really good. I don't got much to say beyond that. Honestly, I like them both about the same. So I'm going to move on to the Hydrogen Crash. The big thing is that the connection is more solid and heavy, as mentioned before with the Klondike. This sort of stands out with the connection. It just feels really solid and you can feel its mass, but it's not particularly sluggish. Compared to the Hydrogen Crash though, I'd say they have similar levels of power, but the pacing is a bit different. The Hydrogen Crash is a bit naturally quicker compared to the connection, but in general they're a similar performance tier. But they feel much different. The Hydrogen Crash feels a bit more hollow, a bit less solid, but a bit quicker than the connection. But the connection is a bit more solid feeling with a bit more forward of a mass and a more reined in pacing. I'd also say the connection is a bit more well controlled because of its more forward presence and reined in pacing. Personally, I slightly prefer the Hydrogen Crash just because I like it when my yo-yos are a bit lighter. Finally, onto the Emotion. Well, they're super similar. Dressel literally designed them to play at least a little bit similarly, and he definitely succeeded. The connection is definitely a bimetal version of the Emotion across the board. This kind of means they play kind of similarly. I'd say the few differences are that the connection has slightly more spin power and stability, but it also has a bit more forward of presence and rim-weighted sensation. This basically means that the connection is a slight performance boost over an already well-performing yo-yo. I wish I had more to say, but I just don't. When you bake similar yo-yos, they're gonna be similar. But I will say, part of what made the Emotion so special to me was how incredibly fine-tuned the playfield was. The Emotion and connection aren't far off from each other, but the slight difference between the two is just enough for me to say I prefer the Emotion. It's a slight preference, to be completely honest. The Emotion is just a bit more natural and pleasant feeling than the connection. And with that, I'm done with the comparisons. The connection is extremely good. It's an extremely good follow-up to the Emotion. It's a bit more performant without sacrificing too much of that extremely pleasant playfeel of the connection. Overall, I really enjoy the connection. It's just a plain and simple, good yo-yo. For that reason, I'm going to be putting it in S tier. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Stay healthy, everyone. Adios.